you're a real gamer, then you've played Hollow Knight. And if you've played Hollow Knight, then you've been waiting for Silksong for a long time. In fact, Silksong started out as free DLC for Hollow Knight Kickstarters. So some people have technically been waiting for Silksong since before Hollow Knight even came out. In that time, a buttload of games inspired by it have attempted to appeal to its audience. We got Constance, The Little Munchkin, Enderman Game, Eterna Noctis, Robo Knight, Heck, Noidrot, Bloodborne Knight, Deviator, which is the funniest, most ironic, least self-aware title of all time. But from among the dogpile, one game manages to claw its way out and actually make a name for itself. Chiaroscuro. Chiara, how the heck do you...
Chiaroscuro.
That one. This is the game I'm talking about today. It looks incredibly original. The similarities between Nine Souls and Hollow Knight are pretty obvious. They're both 2D action platformers that take place in a world ruined by plague, where you explore a Metroidvania-style map and hunt down important characters to reach the final boss. But in order to distinguish itself from the sea of competitors, Nine Souls made an absolutely mind-blowing, revolutionary decision. They put a parry in the game. Hey, listen, I'm a simple guy. If a game has a parry, it's instantly like 70% better. Nine Souls' gameplay is varied with lots of platforming and a couple gimmicky sections to keep things fresh. But its fundamental focus, the fettuccine alfredo, is its combat. You have a pretty basic 3-hit combo, but also a parry and a talisman attack. Parries build up your ki, which is spent on talismans. Slap one of these on an enemy and it'll inflict internal damage, which is what Phil Swift over here is going to feel when he sees Switch 2 sales.
I see commentary that if you just build great games, everything would turn around. It's just not true.
This is when you pull out your Baba Booey move. If you hold the button down, you can detonate your talisman, which converts all internal damage into real damage. Later in the game, you'll learn the Unbounded Arrow. And this move, man. Oh my god, it's so good, oh my god. Yahoo! Yahoo! Mamma mia, you know what I'm saying? Instead of pressing right when an attack hits, you gotta hold that sucker down and let go instead. It lets you swat away crimson attacks, which normally destroy your entire soul and inflicts internal damage. Plus, because of the way the input works, if there's a gap in an enemy's attack string, you can weave them in with normal parries, rewarding players who memorize attacks. All of your moves come together and form a combat system that merges offense and defense into a fulfilling flow, where you build up damage and cash it all out at once for a big payoff. It really reminds me of that one game, Pronti Fishy Adventure. The charm system from Hollow Knight is here, except instead of doing things like turning you into the average Smash tournament goer, most of the charms actually do fun things, like fully charging an attack after a parry, which opens up options for different ways to play. Enemies are relentless, aggressive, and have no qualms ganging up on you. You really gotta stay on your toes. Some of these guys will just blitz you with strikes, but that's exactly where a parry-focused combat system thrives. One of my favorite little flourishes of modern shooters is the sound when you get a kill. The sounds they use are always so satisfying, and it's great positive feedback. When a game has parry-centric gameplay and unrelenting enemies, you get that same rewarding feeling like 100 times in 10 seconds. The story starts off really strong, familiarizing you with a little boy named Xuan and his village, then slapping you in the face with the knowledge that it's basically a human livestock area. It very quickly gets you asking questions like, what could possibly be the purpose of something so horrific? The fact that your character, Yi, clearly knows the answers to these questions, combined with his cold, uncaring demeanor, makes it difficult to feel connected to him. Your main goal is to hunt down the 9 souls. But the problem with that is that, with the exception of 2 or 3, they aren't really shown to be all that evil. The first one you find, you don't even fight, and he immediately becomes your ally for the rest of the game. So for the rest, you feel like a psychopath for killing them, which is worsened by Yi's aggressive dialogue, the game's gruesome imagery, and each soul's backstory showing their motivations after each battle. What I think the story actually does well is the quiet moments between gameplay where Yi and Xuan interact. Xuan's innocence and sincerity bring out some warmth in Yi, which helps in making him a little more likable. And while we're talking about storytelling, we gotta talk about the environments. Ooh, wow. They don't do that. The way they're presented, you'd think you'd be able to learn more about the world by just looking around the same way you could in Hollow Knight or a FromSoft game. But in reality, everything they show only gives pretty surface level information and hardly teaches you anything new. But while not quite reaching the heights of Hollow Knight, Atmosphere is still intriguing and immersive. The human harvesting facility is grim and foreign, perfectly represented by its music, with its haunting, inhuman-sounding chants. The Grotto of Scriptures is a monument to the past, out of place in a world that only looks to the future for hope. Statues of historical figures line every inch of this ancient cave, and its earthy tones contrast the otherwise futuristic and technological aura of the game's setting. The absolute highlight of this game for me was the Lady Ethereal section. It's its own perfectly packaged, self-contained story. You make your way through a creepy platforming section and learn that Lady Ethereal created the Soulscape. The Soulscape is a dreamlike simulation that went wrong when the researchers who entered it started to confuse dreams and reality. Because the Soulscape made dreams so pleasant, when the researchers discovered reality wasn't their perfect dreams, they ended their own lives, leaving only Lady Ethereal to bear the responsibility. Now that is a setup, and the payoff is one of the best boss fights in the whole game. The whole tragic tale is summed up and retold to you through the background and music. The weight of her colleagues' corpses literally hang from her hands, and her mind pulsates with guilt, eventually blooming into a butterfly of madness. The distorted instrumentals and screams in the music immerse you into the lady's traumatized psyche. The whole thing is incredibly well done and the most memorable part of the game. At the start of this video, I kinda implied that Nine Souls is just one in the crowd of similar games you might play while you wait for Silksong. In reality, it gives Silksong some real, actual competition and sets a new bar for it to clear with its phenomenal combat. It soars above all the soulless copies and leaves them in the dirt as a game that does have clear inspirations, but also a vivid, creative vision of its own. If Silksong doesn't have a parry, I walk.